We are live for the crash. What is happening here? I will actually tell you because we know now. We know why every time Bitcoin has gone up over the last 2 weeks, you have had big players selling, whales selling, hedge funds selling. The good news is we know why. We know why. And we also have a fun fact that the current administration could be in trouble. And you could have an everything crash, starting with Oracle and our friends Larry and group who now own a social media platform. Their stock has tanked. Oh, woohoo, for Web 2. Now, the good news is we know what's happening in Bitcoin. I'm going to explain it to you. Patreon's already got it, by the way. They got everything. I did it specially for T-Bone. They got an executive summary and a big term paper. I'll explain the whole thing in a second. So we know what's going on in Bitcoin. We know that hedge funds are going to start taking profits in stocks. We know retail is long stocks and they're going to want to get out before Thanksgiving. So we're going to have ourselves 1 or 2 days of an everything crash. And I think, unfortunately, what got this started, believe it or not, was when Michael Burry from The Big Short closed his hedge fund. When he said, I can't take it anymore, literally, that was the top. I was like, oh my God, right? This was 2 days ago, and I knew because this happened in 2000. You don't know who it was. He was the chief strategist of Merrill Lynch. He was bearish the dot-com tech bubble for a year, and they literally fired him at the top, like literally. So when the last bear is gone, the market goes down, at least the stock market anyway. Okay, now let's get to crypto. Let's talk about the good news that we now know what is wrong and how it's being led by Bitcoin. So as you probably know, Bitcoin hasn't been able to do anything. It couldn't get above 107. Every rally got sold. It went to 100. Everyone was like, okay, it's at 100, but it's never a good thing for Bitcoin when it sits still. And then the next thing you know, on a Friday, okay, the market just unloads. Now, here's what's really happening. Once upon a time, Michael Saylor's company's stock, MicroStrategy, right, now called Strategy, was really the only way to get Bitcoin exposure through stocks. In other words, big funds and pension funds, particularly overseas, are not authorized to do ETFs or crypto ETFs. So the only way they could get exposure to Bitcoin was to buy Michael Saylor's common stock, MSTR. So at the time, when everybody was FOMOing into this stock, right, huge players are like, oh my God, we got to get exposure to Bitcoin. At one point, depending on what metric you use, but MicroStrategy was worth like 3 times more than the Bitcoin that it held. There was this huge premium because, it was a huge company that had a large amount of Bitcoin that no one could ever buy. So it had kind of a moat around it. Like no one is ever going to replicate MicroStrategy. And there was no other way to get involved in Bitcoin at the time. Now, naturally, this type of thing is a juicy opportunity for legacy hedge funds because all they have to do is, say, use the derivatives market to put on a bearish position or short sell MicroStrategy stock and buy Bitcoin and just sit there and literally wait for MicroStrategy stock to go down or to normalize where, it'll be where the rest of the digital asset treasury space is, where all these stocks are trading below the value of the Bitcoin they hold because they're just empty companies holding Bitcoin. So no one is terribly interested in the stocks. Hedge funds are short selling the stocks. So you've got all these companies that are getting wrecked who decided to borrow money and buy Bitcoin. Now, let's separate those characters from MicroStrategy, and let me tell you the punchline of the story. MicroStrategy is now in the same bucket with these digital asset treasury Hershey Kiss stocks, and MicroStrategy is now trading at a discount or is trading below the value of the Bitcoin it holds. Like hedge funds are like rolling in money. So they're like, oh my God, this is terrific. We can take our profits. We can buy our MicroStrategy stock back or take off our derivatives position and just dump the Bitcoin. We just made a whole bunch of money. So you're asking yourself, right? You're looking at the screen. You're like, who is doing all this selling? And there's whales and there's all kinds of like crypto quant data, but they're not seeing this because I guess it's coming from legacy hedge funds through the over-the-counter market, right? Legacy hedge funds, huge legacy hedge funds, are dumping Bitcoin because they're unwinding short MicroStrategy, long Bitcoin. Now, a few things about this. As Just Dario pointed out, which is where I got the original spark for this idea, you got to remember when legacy hedge funds sell Bitcoin, they don't sell Bitcoin and roll into ETH or alts. They sell Bitcoin and that money leaves the system, which is why you have this alt bleed out, right? I mean, money is leaving crypto temporarily, right? As all these characters take profits. Now, as I frequently say about forced selling, this is a form of forced selling, right? When the last person is out, you'll have Bitcoin at, I don't know, 94, 92, 88. Everybody's fantasizing in legacy about 75. That's Michael Saylor's average price. I mean, everyone's going to have a level. The level is where the last legacy hedge fund guy dumps his Bitcoin. That will be it. And it's not about crypto because things like Zcash, right, which is the new private fast Bitcoin, is bid, right? It went to 450, right? And it won't let you in, right? It won't stay below 500. And then all of a sudden it jumps up 8% as soon as the New York Open comes. So there is a bid for cryptocurrency. There's just not a bid for the biggest one as hedge funds liquidate Bitcoin. And, God knows if some digital asset treasury companies or if this is going to trigger some kind of liquidation. I'm kind of in the camp of this is just good old-fashioned large players getting out, just getting out because they suspect that NASDAQ might go, right? You can have a 1 to 2 day blip in NASDAQ to the downside. Again, you've already got companies who have overspent or have phony baloney accounting, not naming names, but, Oracle has already fallen out of bed. So, there's going to be more pain in stocks. Now, for Bitcoin, because it's hard money, right? In other words, when Bitcoin is going down, everybody forgets what it is. And I think people are also forgetting what MicroStrategy is or strategy, right? Everyone's going to blame Michael Saylor and say, oh, this is all your fault because, you told everybody and all these companies bought Bitcoin and now it's all falling out of bed and your own stock is falling out of bed, right? I can see he's going to have to go on every talk show and explain how buying all this Bitcoin is benefiting your shareholders because right now it's not. Now, slight digression. Every time you have a Michael Saylor apocalypse, like, oh my God, it's going to go to an average price, or he gets hauled on TV to explain himself. Every time we have the Michael Saylor end of the world trade, it's over. It's done. The only question is, like I said, what price does the last hedge fund sell at? You know, when does it unwind? Now, you may know this because they may start squeezing shorts in MicroStrategy stock itself. So let's just take a brief word on that, because this MicroStrategy stock thing, even if it crashed to like 180, even if MicroStrategy stock fell out of bed, let's think about this for just a second. You have a company where, you know, they've got close to 700,000 Bitcoin. No one is ever going to be able to buy that on the open market at all, right? If anything, MicroStrategy may wind up getting nationalized as the Bitcoin strategic reserve. So the risk with MicroStrategy is that some government buys it at, you know, undoubtedly a premium to shareholders. It's funny. So this guy has a moat around his company and his business. No one is ever going to be able to do this. It's not like, you know, some iced tea company that came along and decided to buy Bitcoin so the stock would 5x. This is totally different, right? If you consider Bitcoin hard money, or you think about Bitcoin at say like 250K or something like that, that stock is going to be massively higher, because the higher Bitcoin goes, it'll pull the whole ecosystem with it, right? And Michael Saylor's got multiple options for big players to be able to buy his stock or any of his preferred stock to get additional Bitcoin exposure. So all the people that originally bought his stock will also likely want to buy more of the stock. And get this, are you ready? So you may know that Michael Saylor issued a whole bunch of strange financial instruments called preferred stocks. Part stock, part bonds. It was like 6 of them or more to get the money to buy as much Bitcoin as he can when people were FOMOing. Well, guess what? Most of those people that bought those instruments, they hedged themselves by shorting MicroStrategy stock, or by putting on some kind of bearish position in MicroStrategy stock. Now, they may leave that position where it is, but I'm trying to paint this picture that the entire planet is short MicroStrategy stock. They're all bearish on that particular entity. So everyone is bearish MicroStrategy. Everyone thinks Michael Saylor is going to get liquidated. And the sellers of Bitcoin, it's either forced selling from liquidated longs or hedge funds just trying to get out of a profitable trade and get home for Thanksgiving before NASDAQ unloads. Because, you know, hedge funds, who knows, could have losses somewhere else, and they're plugging the losses by taking the profits. So the long-held mystery as to why Bitcoin is going lower has been solved. The only question is, when does it end? Now, let's go to altcoins. Don't look now, but the XRP ETF is doing good. It's doing better than the Solana ETF. Money is coming out of Bitcoin, the Bitcoin ETF, and it, you know, some money is coming into XRP, believe it or not. So, okay, you have forced selling in Bitcoin. You have a half decent bid in XRP. You have Zcash, which just can't stay down. You have ETH outperforming Bitcoin, like ETH BTC is up 1%. That's how you know. That's how you know that you have this like panic profit taking or panic liquidation going on in Bitcoin itself. So I understand it's painful. I understand everyone's wrecked. I understand it's just like wildly unpleasant. I understand fear, greed is going to go to zero if it isn't there already. And, you know, the worse this gets, the less likely it is that people will ever come back into the market, honestly. But I saw a tweet about Monero. Like, Monero is up on the day. Monero processes 50% of total private transactions at half the market cap of Zcash. Now, nothing wrong with Zcash. I'm not hating on Zcash, but that's a very fast ramp. Zcash could do what Bitcoin did in 2017. And if Zcash is the new Bitcoin, Monero could be the new Ethereum. Did you know Monero is going to be included in Thorchain or ThorSwap? You're going to be able to like do some sort of like cross-chain private trading, which is what the guys from Antivirus want to get going. They want to do the same thing. Their little Matrix placeholder token, it's like a call option on the Matrix privacy coin that they're going to build. You know, John McAfee, his widow, Janice, his crew that have done nothing but build things. You wanted a discount, you got a discount. Like at 125, everyone was like, I'm missing out. I'm never going to be. Everyone's like, you're not early anymore. Guess what, folks? You're early. You're early because what happens when this is over? So everyone wants to know what price it's over at. When is it over? My comment is markets never bottom on a Friday or a Monday. So the bottom's not today, and the bottom's probably not Monday. It's probably Tuesday or Wednesday. That's a guess. Now, what happens when the forced selling stops? Well, it's very simple. When the forced selling stops and the supply has been absorbed, it's probably going to get absorbed by people who are looking for Bitcoin as hard money, right? Because, you know, the administration, fiat currencies, I mean, wow, we are talking about an epic embarrassment. There is some epic problems with sovereigns, seriously, especially in the United States. You have an awakening that, oh my God, we need to get outside the system, or, you know, this is not what we thought it was. You can have an event here. You can have a change in leadership. Something completely wild could transpire that brings to people's attention the idea of Zcash, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, the declaration of cryptocurrency independence. Now, this creates, in my mind, a V bottom, right? In other words, straight down, straight back up again. We discussed this at length in the YouTube member podcast yesterday, where, you know, Toby is in full futurist mode, watching the AI sector, the small caps and the baby caps start to pop off and rally, even with this debacle in progress. It's as simple as that. So the deeper it goes on the downside, the more vicious it's going to be when it turns around, right? In other words, this almost is like the cough, cold, and flu crash, where it literally goes straight down, freaks everybody out, only to realize that this was basic profit taking on a huge trade, and that both MicroStrategy stock, Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin ETF, right? When like the traders are out, you're going to be looking at Oracle stock rolling over, NASDAQ stock rolling over, QQQ, all of these big magnificent seven, you call them the hyperscalers or the spenders. Hey, folks, where's all that money going? There's been really no bid so far in government bonds. Like normally when everyone gets afraid, everyone like runs into government bonds. Yeah, not really, right? Gold and silver are also down. right? So it appears to be some sort of freak out across all asset classes. And when people freak out, right? When people freak out, that's when you get the discounts of a lifetime. Like everybody wants to be a trader. Everybody wants to go back to the days when Bitcoin, I want to go back to when Bitcoin was in 2016 and I could buy Bitcoin at $500 a share, or I could buy Bitcoin after a 40% decline. Okay, dude. Well, 20% declines are not out of the question, right? You're already working on 25% plus. It's not a good morning to wake up to. I get it. The simple fact of the matter is, again, you have hedge funds selling, you have bears giving up in stonks, and it's a recipe for, I don't know, I want to say 8 to 12 hours. So you might have today and part of Monday if you just think in legacy terms, right? Let them do what they need to do, because remember, when they get done selling all these Magnificent Seven stocks, all of a sudden, Bitcoin's going to look cheap. The ETF, the Ethereum ETF is going to look cheap. They've got Solana and XRP to choose from. I think this massively benefits XRP. They got a brand new ETF, and XRP is an easy sell to an equities investor because it's not just some cryptocurrency. It's a cryptocurrency with a company behind it, right? They can be like, oh, cool. They have a company? So people in crypto are like, oh, it's centralized. Oh, XRP dumps on retail, whatever. Ripple dumps on retail. No, the XRP ETF so far has actually been working. So if you have the XRP ETF working, you have Zcash working, and I know you're going to think I'm out of my mind. I still think Zcash is a leading indicator of the type of price action you can see and what McAfee would call cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies are back. You just can't see it because you've got legacy guys unleashing on Bitcoin, trying to take profits at a point where crypto people are universally bearish and really totally upset. I mean, there are influencers that have been around for multiple cycles who are all saying they have never seen it this dark because people were so hopeful about the fourth quarter, including me. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I'll confess I was wrong. I thought this thing was going to blow through 107. ETH reclaim support. I'm like, oh my God, this is off to the races, right? It's the dawn of crypto, and boom, I ran into a hedge fund wall of selling, right? Day traders just unloading a gigantic failed rally. And I was like, oh my God, with Michael Burry on top of that. I literally personally ran face first into a bullish storm, right? My stop was a close below 99K. So yesterday it closed above 99K, and then you wake up and it's down 5%. And I all of a sudden feel like I had a huge amount of company. Now, speaking of company, I don't think many people realize, and some of the things that we talk about in the YouTube member area, there is no way the AI trade doesn't move from the stock market into crypto. And of course, people have already forgotten that not only is Bitcoin like hard money, like gold, which has gone parabolic. Okay. Ironically, CZ has talked about gold is a place where people are parking money until they can move to Bitcoin. That's interesting. Bitcoin is also a part of the AI trade because it's a monetary revolution. These are things that, of course, people are going to forget about. At 125, it's the future. At 94, it's going to zero, and it's a scam, and Michael Saylor is getting liquidated. You have to take that longer view and try to find a tactical spot, whether it's today or Tuesday. It doesn't matter what they do to this thing, in my opinion, because your bags are wrecked already. So this is not investment advice. It's an opinion show. But the deeper they drop it, the harder it comes back. Said differently, if you really want to pour some hate down the pipe, try this on for size. Everybody had a year-end forecast of 200. Everybody. Everybody had that at the end of last year at this time. And people were talking about that, it's going to $1 million. It's going to 700K, blah, 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 blah. How do you get to 200? How do you get to 150? Well, there has to be a reason to buy crypto, which could be a problem with a bank, which could easily happen. You also have to remember that if this thing teeters, the Treasury is sitting on $1 trillion. Let's just call it high-powered money in the Treasury general account. So if you have a destabilizing political event or a destabilizing economic event, Bessent is coming in, right? And I would imagine Powell is coming in too, because, complete disorderly disarray is not in anyone's interest. This could trigger a sudden flow of money into crypto, particularly if there's a problem with a bank or a hedge fund. There are loan losses out there. Everyone has forgotten about this. When Silicon Valley Bank went down in 2023, Bitcoin went straight up. And this actually reminds me of stories that I heard about something that happened to safe haven assets in 1987. Safe haven assets would be like a 2-year government bond. Leading into the crash of 87, 2-year government bonds were going straight down in price. Like, you could not buy them. You could not, because all they did was go down right up until the event happened. And then they went straight up for 8 years, straight up, right? It was like the 10% long bond back then. This thing with Bitcoin could be the exact same thing, where it's like a falling knife and you can't catch it, or you don't want to catch it, or you're liquidated, or you're trapped, or you're just so depressed and upset you can't function. But the way you get to 200 is you get everybody out, right? You get all the Bitcoin that's being sold into secure hands. And then when all this forced selling is over, there's no seller. Market makers won't get in front of a steamroller. And this thing could be back at 120 in a heartbeat. In an absolute heartbeat, right? You have a liquidity injection, a bank problem. You could have the Fed, the Treasury, and you could have asset allocation coming from equities. Because people in equities are like, okay, well, I'm not doing this Oracle thing. Michael Burry has made it very clear that all the accounting is phony baloney. That's not just fringe Twitter anymore. That's front page news. They've spent wild amounts of money. So hear me out on this whole stock thing, right? So you're like, oh my God, Bitcoin is all bad and crypto's terrible. Just think about this for a second. They are spending tens of billions of dollars, probably close to $1 trillion, I think. And a lot of this is borrowed money. They're spending money on nothing but hardware. Like, they're building giant buildings, they're buying chips, and it's just a big, giant machine. Now, what is the return to shareholders on the big, giant machine that they build? Zero. Now, they're doing it because it's the future, and if their Skynet is not adopted, that they're going to lose the race. But that doesn't change the fact that these hyperscaler companies are putting endless amounts of money into hardware. That's it. That's what they're doing in the short term. Now, is that good for their stock? Honestly, not really. Because everything is AI and everything is an AI build out and everything is very lofty over there. Yeah, it's going to be a revolution. But is that revolution been traded properly? Have they bid up all kinds of stuff over there that doesn't make any sense? Again, don't believe me? Check this out. I'll share a chart. It's like, Like, what do you want to own? You want to own. So the candle chart is Oracle. You know, they do all kinds of stuff with OpenAI, and I'll give you a $300 million investment, and you'll spend that $300 million on my products. Okay. And then we'll buy TikTok because, you know, we want to control things. Okay, great. Excellent. So Larry, how's it going? The candle graph is Oracle, and the white line is NASDAQ, QQQ. So do you want to own any of that? I don't. And no portfolio manager is going to want that either. They're going to be like, oh my God, we got to get out of this. What are we going to get into? Bonds? with an epic scandal about to drop? Are you kidding me? U.S. Treasuries at 4%? Uh-huh. Yeah. Right? Gold's been bid up. Treasuries are no good. Where does the money go? It's got to go to crypto ETFs. It's got to. So if you have a liquidity event where the Fed or the Treasury push money in the system, you have a bank crack, you have an absence of selling when the hedge funds are done taking profits, and then you have mutual funds, pension funds, all wanting to allocate towards crypto equities. Because, you know, this thing where, okay, we can borrow a lot of money and buy chips and buildings, or we could have money. We could invest in chips and buildings, or we can get money, a monetary system. Solana, Ethereum, you know, layer ones, the internet. Toby talks about this. Does anybody remember the internet, Web3, stable coins? No, of course not. No one remembers this because the market is, you know, dog do rolling down a hill. So everyone has forgotten about this. Well, they're not going to forget about it in equities. So you could have Bessent coming in. You could have mutual funds and pension funds coming in at the same time, looking for a market where there's no seller. And the whole market, or the whole crypto market has been marked down like a cheap suit. Like, for example, what's total crypto market cap? Total crypto market cap is at 3 trillion. Total altcoin market cap is now under $1 trillion at 903 billion. Nvidia at the top was worth $5 trillion. Total crypto market cap is now at 3 trillion. You know, if you have Bitcoin at like 88, I don't know. Maybe they'll pop it below 3 trillion. Who the hell knows? That's ridiculous. That's crazy. 3 trillion. I mean, that was Nvidia 2 years ago. No way. Right? I mean, it was too cheap before all the forced selling. So, okay, all right. So you're in the middle of a crash and you're upset. I get it. I'm upset. I'm not happy about this. Right? I was thinking that worst case scenario was like a 97 print like yesterday. And now, you know, they're going to do Black Friday, and then you're going to hear, you know, Black Monday trending on Twitter. Okay. And equities will be a mess. And, you know, that will be how they do things. Like S&P's down 1%, and that's fine. Okay. And, you know, CZ is on the tape right now. You know, every dip, some people think it's the end of time and time continues. Dude, this is what you wanted for 200K. So either this is over and Michael Saylor is going to get liquidated and it's the end of cryptocurrency, or you're going to get the opportunity of a lifetime. And once it stops, it may not stop when it turns around and goes up, because there's every reason for it to go up outside of the forced selling and the ridiculousness of the stock market, right? Buildings and chips versus money and the internet. Asset allocation with a liquidity injection. Because, I mean, if you think Bessent is going to sit around while literally everything falls apart, including like his boss and the whole thing, Bessent's going to call Powell and they're going to work together to keep it together. Because to have an event at Thanksgiving, no way. No way. I mean, they can do it, right? But the only thing that I can think of that would be, I guess, max pain to conclude is that they would actually let it go for 3 to 4 days and let it get really bad and then come in massively. So whatever happens here, even if it's a giant wick down or, obviously I don't know. I have chart points at 92 and 88, and Michael Saylor's average price is 75. So, everyone's going to have a level, whatever. It's when the last guy is done selling. And when the last guy sells and that low is in, the question you need to ask yourself is, once it starts going up, will it stop ever? You saw how Zcash behaved. Zcash is a leading indicator. That price action, even though the Winklevoss twins came in and bought a bunch, you can have that price action in other areas of the market. A lot of people thought Zcash was going to turn around and go back down to 25. That has not happened. If anything, Zcash dips and is not letting you in. Bull markets don't let you in. Bear markets don't let you out. We're having both at the same time. My guess is when Bitcoin bottoms, Zcash is going to correct, and you're going to get the dip you wanted in Zcash. And if that's not true, Zcash is going to lead the market when the liquidity injection comes in. I'm cool with it either way. Your alternative perspective is to give up on crypto and humanity. And guess what? Even though I didn't get this exactly right, I'm not doing that. The question isn't whether you should get out. You should manage risk. You should manage your sanity. You should make sure you can pay rent. But you should remember about the future of money. You should also remember about the future of tech, which was going up in many cases and is percolating in the small cap sector. Right? I mean, we are working about nothing but AI, decentralized computing, because no matter how much they build, they can't build enough. They're going to have to come to the decentralized world. Again, concepts that no one thinks about when they're getting wrecked, which is the perfect time to think about it, because the Warren Buffetts, the Tudor Joneses, and all these guys that got famous, they get famous by taking advantage of situations like this, where people get emotional. You have forced selling with a bullish catalyst like liquidity and asset allocation, like right there. Like everyone's getting bearish when the bullish stuff is right in front of their face. Okay. Let's welcome who's here. What do we got? We got love, we got hate, we got Bull Runner, MJ Hits, Hal Lopez. I'm back. Thank you. Bob says fools are selling. By the way, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We're on at 8 a.m. Eastern time every day, unless I have the flu. Cisco, what's up? Members, CryptoPath. Bob, hello. Crypto Crazy Knowledge Dump. Knox Bill, give me them cheap seats. Zepetus, a member. Welcome. Yav, Moon Sector 7, now a Spartan Colonel. Yes, sir, I am back. KPED OFC says, Saylor is a tool. How dare you expose MicroStrategy? Dude, MicroStrategy is cheap versus the Bitcoin that it holds. And everyone's going to tell me there's something wrong with the company. I've seen the videos. They're great. They get huge numbers of views. There's the guy, the funny looking guy with the glasses. Oh my God. He's after Michael Saylor. I'm like, dude, if Bitcoin is at 250K or at BlackRock's target of 700K, who is ever going to be able to get that much Bitcoin? Nobody. Warmon, what's up? Art from the Amsterdam airport. What's going on? Dan the Chippy. XRP may have bottomed already. The Hand of God, a member, right? Going to take profits in February. Dara Sam, welcome to the show. Felix. Oh my God. Felix is like, Bill, when is this ever going to happen? The cycle has completely wiped out historical data with all these funds and treasury companies. Yeah, man, you're going to need an LLM to make, Toby keeps telling you, dude, that whatever you use to look at the market in the past, that's over. I think you just got to go back to the basics, hard money, following gold, following M2. Does anybody remember this? Bessent is sitting on $1 trillion. They're going to unleash $1 trillion in spending. Gavin Busby wishes he had more money to put in. GME has $8 billion to deploy. Diego, Antonio, Dara, Sam, what's happening? Hello from South Texas. People, listen. This morning, I was more upset this morning when I didn't know what was going on. Now that you know what's going on and you have the forced selling, right? It's not the Binance liquidation, or maybe it was that in the beginning. It's these hedge funds getting out of this Bitcoin trade, draining money out of the system, which also hurts alts. Let them do what they have to do. Let people get hysterical. The more hysterical they get, the higher it's going to go when it turns. That's the market update for today. We may be back later, definitely in the morning on Monday. We'll see you then.